the left-hand side. And there we are. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Striving to Thriving LinkedIn Live show, where we are redefining success. And I am so excited to introduce to the guests that are going to be here today and to welcome you to the show. So I'm your host. I'm Barbara Ellison. I'm founder of Wellness Playroom for the best version of you. And I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception, because I truly believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, debt-free, and abundant life. And so that is what I work with late career business professionals, to have them get that after they get past their working and into retirement. So I'm so excited to introduce my guest host is Beth Lauren. Beth, how are you today? Welcome to the show, and tell us about you and what brought you here.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. Thrilled to be here with you. Thank you so much. We've been chatting back and forth on LinkedIn, and it's been great to get to know you. And thank you for inviting these wonderful, incredible women who are part of the WellTech World Summit, which I am the founder of. It's a conference for founders in the health tech and wellness tech area. It's a place where people can get together and learn tips and tools to help them be well themselves, to avoid burnout, to help their employees be well, and to serve their clients and their customers better. And last year, Melissa and Clarissa, that rhymes, they both participated. We did it online. We're doing it in person this year, and we'll talk more about that later. And this year, also Monica and Sam will be joining us. So very excited to talk more about their journeys and to pass it over to Melissa to introduce herself.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So just a little bit about me. I'm a healer. I've been a healer since I was 18. And it's been a long journey. It's been a very interesting journey. And I'm an energy empowerment mentor. So I started my journey with Reiki. And as time has gone on, I've brought through my own modalities. I specialize in type 1 diabetes, and I work with many other conditions as well as things like anxiety, worry, Asperger's, a whole spectrum of things that help with the healing work that I do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
A pleasure to be here. I'm Sam Rehan. I'm based in the UK. I'm living in Hartfield, which is the Winnie the Pooh village. It's where Winnie the Pooh was written. And I'm a wellness director, a wellness teacher for workplaces. And I use something really fun to teach simplified wellness for everybody of all ages and abilities. And I use laughter yoga, seated laughter yoga. So I've been using laughter yoga for about 7 years. I'm also a holistic therapist for 15 years. I'm very happy to be working with lots of different people of all ages. And for me, laughter connects people. It's such a powerful universal language. There's no jokes involved. But when we connect as human beings, we relax with each other and we feel great. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Clarissa.
Oh, hi, and thank you, Beth, for bringing this together. I'm Clarissa Christiansen. I'm based in Sweden, and I am a holistic menopause coach, educator, and mentor. And I'm really passionate that women can actually thrive in menopause, not just struggle through or think about it as a hell. I think it's a great time for us to embrace a positive mindset and to look to the future, to really begin that journey to stepping into what in Chinese medicine is called the second spring.
And I'm Monica Bozanov. I'm also in Sweden. So we have two Scandinavians. I have been a coach my entire life. I just didn't know it until my first BFF ever said, "You've always coached me." And we've known each other since before we could speak. but I took another route to actually doing that full time like I do now.
All right. So now I'm so excited to meet all of you. Absolutely. I love your stories already. So yeah, so let's chat. So what was the moment that you realized that something had to change in your life? For me, it was after I woke up from my widow's fog, when after my husband passed away, and realized that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself, of being a wife or being a daughter, and then a mother, and a wife and a mother, and a divorced failure, and then a successful wife again, but then a business owner, and now I'm a widow. Who am I within all that? And that just absolutely started me on the journey to finding out who I was. And now it is such a blessing to help other people to do the same thing, especially those that are facing retirement, and who are they outside of their job title and their job description. So that's me in a nutshell. So Beth, how about for you?
I have a few nutshells. I am pivot queen because of various moments in my life, either for necessity or just waking up and realizing I was doing things that weren't working for me or really weren't what fed my soul and my artistic side. Like I pivoted just last year, and Monica can tell you because she coaches me. I've had like 3 important business pivots. So I think it's really like a reinvention, or, you know, I'm sure many of you know Marie Forleo, who's a really important like thought leader and entrepreneur. And she talks about being a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And I think I am the embodiment of that. And I've tried to connect all my passions into the work that I do. And I would say the path to creating this World Tech World Summit was I was studying Ayurvedic medicine, and I really realized I wanted to do nutritional counseling and do some private cooking for people. And then just when I started to hit my stride with that, COVID happened, and nothing could happen in person. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? Because a lot of aspects of doing like remote coaching didn't really speak to how I wanted to use Ayurveda. And I started to look around and see how is everyone else who's a practitioner like acclimating and using tech only, and not doing anything hands-on. And I said, you know what, there's really not a conference to talk about this. And so the idea was born, and that was a huge pivot. And I had done years of events management. I was in the film world for years. I had done events for nonprofits. I had done a ton of writing. So this platform allowed me to bring my wellness business, my event management, a lot of it together. And it was validated by these incredible people who said, yeah, I absolutely want to be a part of that. So I think that's the huge pivot. Although I'm sure there's like 12 pivots ahead of me in later life. Melissa, do you want to speak to some?
Yeah, of course. Yes. So, as I said, my healing journey began when I was 18, and really that was because I was just completely lost. And a bit like you, Barbara, as you explained, I just didn't know who I was, and I found healing, and it just changed my life so enormously. I was really lost. You know, I was a rebel. I didn't fit in the box. I didn't kind of have any direction in my life, and everything just changed when I found healing. I'm also a type 1 diabetic myself. I've had it since I was 4. And later on down the line, my son was diagnosed age 7. So I was then really driven to find something that could, help diabetics to level their blood sugar levels. And when I was younger, I was told by the medical profession that it was diet related. And then now, everybody realized that emotions play such a big part of keeping your blood sugar levels in control. So part of my work is to support children and their parents with type 1, because it's such a huge diagnosis, and sadly there isn't the support or the resources available to help. And through meditation and healing, really has made a difference to mine and my son's lives. And I just want to take that out there and sort of make it as big as I can and help as many people as possible. It, you know, and it doesn't just help with diabetes. You know, as we're all aware, so many or most illnesses are created from you know, that dis-ease within the body, the you know, the unhappiness, the stress. It creates so many illnesses. So I've seen huge differences through my work, and there is nothing more rewarding than being able to help people and just seeing a change in their lives, whether that's very small or not. And the most fantastic thing is the ripple effect of that, and how it just spreads, and you help one person and they go on to help somebody else, and you just don't realize, you know, how far that can go. And it's a beautiful thing.
Love that. Sam?
Yeah, thank you. So where do I start? So I'm on this huge journey of sharing wellness strategies, really simple things that have worked, but that have worked really well for me. And I think my journey really started when I was about 9 years old. I had 5 siblings younger than me. And to support my mom, I was like a carer. I used to put them together in a circle and teach them. I was caring for them to help my mom. And when I think about now, what absolutely brings me huge amounts of pleasure is doing group wellness support. So workplaces, getting people together in a group, and we can learn from each other. So that kind of almost like I was like a little mini teacher when I was about 9 years old. So I remember that. And a huge part of what I do is stress management. And my father, it wasn't diagnosed, and I only realized a lot later when I left home, is that he had huge mental health issues. And now I know that when I left home at 18, it was to kind of almost run away from home for my sanity. So I have had a huge interest in mental health, supporting people. I'm still a carer now. And what happened about 8 years ago, so back about 2015, 2016, is I had a week, and from Tuesday to Tuesday, a number of things happened. I had a phone call. A young member of my immediate family passed away unexpectedly. I got a phone call from school, and normally the teacher will say, "Oh, everything's all right with the children." She didn't. I panicked. And my child, my son, age 7, was on a school trip. He'd got off the coach off the school bus, and he fell and he got concussion. And I had to rush out there. It was a 2-hour drive to get there to the hospital where he had to, you know, have stitches and what have you. In the same week, I went to work, and my boss just said, "Oh, you need to come with me." And I thought, what have I done wrong? And he took me to a meeting room. The HR was there, and my job was being made redundant. Now, being a single mom, that job was paying for everything. And when the landlady found out that my job was being made redundant, she gave me notice. I needed to move out. I was in court as well with my ex-husband. And on top of that, my son, age 7, was having weekly blood transfusions for a red blood disorder. And I remember putting the children age 5 and 7 to bed, thinking, I am physically, mentally, emotionally tired, can't cope with anymore, but I have to keep going for the sake of my 2 children. You know, I'm the sole caregiver. All my family were away. You know, they don't live local. And what I did was I tried to watch a comedy, and it was too jarring. But I found on the internet very young babies gurgling and laughing. And I felt better. And I watched a bit more, and I thought, I just feel so much better. Looked into it and realized there was 50, 60 years of research into laughter, how amazing it is for stress, for reducing pain, heart health, release of happy chemicals. And off I went and became a laughter yoga teacher. And now I am so blessed. I've used laughter yoga for people with dementia, people with brain disorders, teenagers with autism, foster families, couples, and it's powerful, really, really powerful. So I think I've got one of the best jobs in the world. So here I am using laughter for conferences, for AGMs, and for workplaces. So very, very blessed.
What a great story. Thank you so much. Clarissa, would you like to share?
Oh, yes. Well, I suppose, like you, Beth, I have had numerous aha moments. But the big one for me was about 12 years ago. And I was working in corporate. I was a very senior corporate leader, and I had horrendous perimenopause symptoms, and particularly the anxiety. And nobody talked about that. I mean, we're going back, now we think the whole world is talking about menopause, but they're not. This feels like it. But then there was no one helping me. Sure, there was a bit of nutrition support. I'd had some blood pressure medications, but nothing was tackling this anxiety. And then I changed jobs and I got a new boss, and it was Friday. And he hadn't spoken to me all week. And I'm thinking, have I done something wrong? Are they going to get rid of me? What's going on here? My mind had gone stratospheric, with every story that it could make up. And I thought, well, I'll grab him at lunchtime. And he came out the lift and I came out the lift. And I thought, oh, Nathan, I said to him. And suddenly I just had the biggest panic attack. And I felt like I was in an out-of-body experience. To this day, I have absolutely no idea what I said to the man. So I could have said anything. And he just looked at me and he said, you shouldn't really run up the stairs, take the lift next time. And he just walked away. And that was like, I can't cope with this. I can't live like this. I'm not getting any support. And after a lot of tears, I believe that sometimes there are angels there that guide us. And I had a guide to a woman I'd met at a conference, and she belonged to an organization called Open Ground. And I went and Googled, and there it was, mindfulness-based stress reduction. You've never seen anybody sign up for a course so fast in their life, because it was in the suburb next to mine in Bondi. And I was like, okay, I'm going to this now, And it changed so much of my life. I began to understand maybe something that I tell women in menopause too, is that we're not alone. We're going through this as a community, that when we come together, we can share where we're at. And obviously, I learned a lot of really good strategies that helped me. Suddenly, my anxiety was less. My sleep was better. My weight went down, because stress is a big factor for all of us, but particularly when we're going through such big changes. And of course, today, we know that menopause impacts our brains more than it does our bodies. But, the science wasn't there in 2011, but it is there now. So what I was experiencing, I love other women to know, is there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're going through a massive hormonal change that is impacting your brain. And I started teaching mindfulness. I left my corporate career, but then I just kept seeing lots of women that looked just like me, professional women struggling. And that's when I moved to working full-time in menopause coaching, really learned to understand what that's about, became a holistic specialist coach in that area. And then I launched a podcast that's about teaching women about this time of life, mind, body, and soul. And that is my mission, that women need all sorts of knowledge so that they can make choices that are right for them.
Yeah. Clarissa's podcast is great. I am a long-term listener. And Monica, please share.
Yeah. I had the privilege of having my life just imploding in 2002. And I had all the evidence in the world proving, like physically, mentally, everything. I was diagnosed, burnt out and depressed. And I had all the proof that I needed. I'm broken. I knew it. And there was no obvious reason why. But I knew I could fix it. I just didn't know the how to. So I went down the rabbit hole, and all of you talk about like beauty and wellness and laughter. My thing is snot and tears and ugly crying and autonomic nervous system. I'm fluent in nervous system. And I love the yucky stuff because the upside is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I have cried with you, Monica. We won't share that video, but
People cry with me, and I love it because I know that cleansing, right?
Mhm.
So when I started doing that work, the tears that came out of my eyes, they burnt my eyes. It was almost scary, right? That doesn't happen anymore. My husband was terrified. I was just in pieces on the floor. But doing the work in the nervous system, getting out of, because I didn't realize that I lived like the first 3 decades of my life in hypervigilance.
Mhm.
So getting out of that, now today, I still have the same hard wiring, but I don't have the fear and the panic.
Right.
Meaning I can use all of that, my big antennas, for forward momentum for my clients. So I work with high performers. What made them high performers is usually that they had great adversity early on in life, right? And early life trauma will wire you differently. If you can get out of that, you have a huge gift and so much potential. And that's what I love doing.
I think for me, one of the things that I'm loving about this conversation is that we are all obviously women of a little bit older. We're not in our 20s. One of the things that I realized when I started doing this work was that here was me, 62, 63, and realized that I'm finally, now in my 70s, I'm finally feeling really good in my own skin. I like myself now. Whereas before, I realized that for the first 60 years, some odd years of my life, I lived by somebody else's rules, by somebody else's mindset, by somebody else's. And it wasn't nothing against my family. I have a wonderful family, but I was the different one. And how many of us can relate to that? Because just exactly what we were talking about. We've all had our upbringing. Wasn't necessarily the one that is, and that's why I think I work with late career professionals who are now realizing they're coming to retirement and they've climbed the corporate ladder, and now they're realizing that maybe their ladder is up against the wrong building, and they're not liking what they're doing. They're not feeling that fulfilled and passionate with purpose. And I always call it, do what makes your heart sing. I think something about with the laughter. What makes you? I love laughter yoga. And exactly. But what makes your heart sing? And I think that's why these types of panels, and thanks again for coming on this. That's why it's so important for us to talk about it. I think this is one thing that so many people are not talking about.
Yeah.
Making grown people cry makes my heart sing.
Yes.
Yes. Authenticity, natural laughter. And I say to them, I'm going to invite it. If you don't laugh, perhaps you can smile. And if you can't smile, you might shine and soften. So accepting people where they're at. And I love what you said, Barbara, about being in your skin. It was my birthday a couple of days ago, and I'm going around going, yeah, I'm 53. And people are going, are you okay talking about your age? I said, I love my age. I love who I am. I've got health and wealth and beautiful people to laugh with. It's just exactly what you're saying, all about I'm in my skin. I'm owning who I am, owning it.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. You're owning it. And I think that's what all of us are doing now. And I think each and every one of us has talked about letting us determine who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say Monica does such powerful work. I had a session with her. Laughter's not about pushing away other feelings. All feelings are valid. Monica does something so powerful because when you, whatever the word is, when you shift and work with those other feelings and stuff that happened before, you make room You make room for other feelings, but all feelings are valid. So yeah, absolutely, really echo what Monica does. She does something very, very powerful. You have to experience it.
And emotion
I think.
is
Go on,
powerful,
sorry, Monica.
right? Yeah,
You go.
there's so much power in emotion. And I see that with my clients, and I'm sure, Sam, you see that as well, right? Sometimes there's a very short distance between laughter and tears.
Yes, yes, yes.
And very often they live almost side by side.
Yes. An actress told me that. An actress said they're next door to each other, and they share certain nerves. And that can happen. I always have chairs at the side when I do my work in case emotions need to be released. I accept where they're at. But yeah, very, very powerful what you're saying. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very true. And I think sometimes we've held them in so long as women. I teach Qigong, and we obviously do a lot of physical things where we kind of work with the lung points here, which are where we store grief. And it's the simplest of movement. I mean, it looks like nothing to massage your lung point, but women will cry and release all this tension through simple somatic practices that they maybe can't verbalize, but can release through movement.
And that's another point, right? Because we talk so much about emotional intelligence,
Yes.
but we almost never speak about the intelligence in the emotion.
Yeah.
Right? Emotions are highly intelligent. They don't have direct access to language. That doesn't make them substandard consciousness. There's a lot of information and wisdom in our emotions, but we need to bring them up so that we get to listen to them. Be that laughter, be that, ugly crying, but there's so much information in those emotions, and we get to shift really quickly when we do that.
Right.
I think you're right, Monica. I think as well, you know what my part of my work is that you remove the energy. So all of the other therapies, the talking, the physical therapies, brings it all to the surface, and then it's just the energy that's left, and you take that out, and it's like the last part, and then you just fill it with something beautiful because it leaves a void. So be that laughter or just joy or love, you fill that space, and it's just it's amazing. Energy is just an amazing thing, and it's everywhere, isn't it? And just because some of us can't see it, some of us can, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and it plays such a huge part. And I think we're bridging that gap now. Science is really realizing how important energy is, and it's very exciting times looking at sort of where we're going as the two link up.
But we can feel our energy. We can feel it. Even if very subtly, we're suddenly aware of that tingling, that feeling that's there for us, and that something is that we can bring that into ourselves is beautiful, or we can use it to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and I heard the word space, Melissa, from you, and also what was coming through, Clarissa, what you were saying. For me, it's authenticity, because it took me a long time. It took me quite a few years to realize that when I used to smile in my 20s and even in my 30s, it wasn't authentic, because I saw my mom smile to push away those negative emotions, to use it as a coping mechanism with my father, who I think it wasn't diagnosed, but I do believe he was schizophrenic, and I thought it was normal. So I spent my 20s at university smiling, because that for me was like protection. If I'm smiling, nothing's going to get to me. I'm safe. And it took me a long time to actually realize that, to get that authenticity out. And it came from the work that you're talking about, that energy work, that deep work, to, I call it, parts of us come up to get integrated.
Right.
So as part of me became integrated and I became more whole, I felt safe to be more authentic. And for me, if I'm more authentic, then I can support people more deeply and more easily with trust. I mean, I did a laughter session, and I'll share with you because it was really powerful. Because when it happened, people looked at me and thought, what's Sam going to do? So I was working with older adults. The average age was about 80. And in the middle of this laughter yoga session, this lady who was the only lady of color in the room. And the reason I'm saying that, because she'd not been to these sessions for a while, and she came, everybody was happy she was there. And I was doing the laughter yoga, and she suddenly went, stop it. I don't want to do this anymore. And everybody looked at me because I was a facilitator. What's Sam going to do about this? And I just looked at her and I said, thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for being authentic. And she visibly relaxed. And I said, here's an option. Do you want to leave the room? Do you want me to come with you? Or somebody want to go with you? Or would you like to remain? And she looked and she said, thank you for asking. And she stayed. And we talked about emotions. We talked about crying. And then she said, carry on, Sam. And it was brilliant but the reason I'm saying that is if I didn't have that get together, parts of me that got put together from all the work I've done and with all the support I've had from so many people, in that moment, what was I going to do? But that wellness, that energy that we're all talking about, that authenticity, that space, that emotions, that intelligence helps me day to day cope with change, uncertainty, and live outside my comfort zone.
And I had a very similar experience today with a client coming into my Zoom room for his session saying, Monica, I did not want to come today.
Right.
And I said, thank you for sharing that. That's good. Because it means his nervous system, he sees the progress that's happening from each session. And all the nervous system wants is to be safe, right? And so many of us have had adversity, have had dysfunctional childhoods. So the nervous system is just terrified of everything. The nervous system knows it's dangerous out there, right? And who knows what your client who's in the 80s, what she is carrying with her, right? And honoring that and saying, I get that, is extremely powerful.
Yes.
And I asked my client at the end of the session, are you happy you still came? And he was going, yeah, right?
Right. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is that so much of what we're all talking about starts in our childhood. It could be something so small when we're kids, and yet it comes back to haunt us in our 80s.
Yeah. So the fears about public speaking, about selling, about marketing, about building a business, all of that, it's not a fear of what's going to happen. It's a sensory emotional memory of something that happened once. And the nervous system is going, that thing looks very much like that thing. And that hurt. I don't want to do that. Right? Please don't make that happen again. So that's why it's so important to start that healing. And then we get forward momentum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And sometimes that lives intergenerationally. It isn't just our story. And I did some work and I actually went back 6 generations, and I could understand that those women there had been so deeply shamed for things that were not their fault, and how it kept coming back through the generations, the shame, particularly the shame around children that were born out of wedlock and what that meant for those women, and how that influenced messages that I received as a girl about how you were meant to behave and show up. And it's only now as a 60-year-old woman that I understand those things and how much they shaped everything I thought and did, and that we don't have to be the bearers of that legacy. We have the right to end that and move forward in our own authentic space. But that requires us to do difficult work with people like Monica.
And we can't do it alone, right? And that's one of the questions I often ask my clients is, when they share stuff, they share these fears, and I say, is this even your stuff?
Yes.
And they go, no. And just bringing that to awareness, even that makes like the goodbye easier, right? It's not even mine. I don't
Yeah.
need to hold on to that. And as Melissa said, right, science is catching up with the understanding of epigenetics and how
Yeah.
trauma accumulates.
Yeah, and I work with epigenetics as well, and it's absolutely fascinating. And there's a book, I can't remember the author now, but it was about a young lady that was having these awful fears about suffocation, suffocating. And it transpired that it was in her family history that she was Jewish, and it was, from concentration camps. But the fact that it had never been spoken about, she carried that trauma, and it was for her to almost clear her lineage so that they could all be free. So epigenetics is a beautiful, beautiful science, and it exactly, describes that bridge between spirituality and science. It's amazing what we hold on to.
Yeah, and we're all linked, aren't we? We're all linked. And I was sharing this with a wonderful lady a couple of days ago. So sometimes, depending where I am, I share this wonderful visual of like when I'm looking at, so behind this, like this shoulder is my mum, and behind my mum is her mum, and her mum, and her mum, and then here's my dad, and behind him is his parents, and behind his parents. And then at some point, for example, like Beth's next to me, at some point, Beth, one of your ancestors and my ancestor are going to be the same. And I share that especially when I've got a group that's very multicultural, background, disabilities, age difference, especially when there's meetings where so many different people, from different companies, and, you're thinking, how can I bring these people together very quickly? And when I share that, if it's appropriate, it's powerful. So at some point, like with Beth and with all of you, we've got the same mother. We do. It's proved in science. We do. And, so it doesn't matter who you are. It's, we come from the same energy. Same energy.
Yeah.
And we carry so many of the same traumas, like things keep repeating itself in history, right? And so taking a look at that it is extremely powerful. And I see that when I do group programs, and someone will bring up something and someone else say, oh, I have that too. I never thought of that, because they resonate.
Right.
And so we can do these things, like everyone has to do their own work, but doing it together often bring this synergy effect to the work that we do.
We're more similar than dissimilar. I think that's my main take. But yeah, it's powerful. I'm enjoying this conversation.
We think if you look at the emotions, fear is that there's only fear and love, isn't there? And everything else is a derivative of.
Yes.
So we've all like you were saying, in some sense, we all have the same fears. We all want the same things ultimately. So yeah, we're all one. And actually, as you heal humanity, because we're healing the whole, which is beautiful, isn't it? Just by loving yourself and doing that work on yourself and having that awareness changes everything.
And it's ongoing, isn't it? It's ongoing.
Yeah.
So, I was talking to somebody today, and they said, oh, you've done a lot already, and it's 11 o'clock. I said, yes, but I'm choosing to rest. So that, whatever I teach, I do things every day. And I'm not talking about hours, but it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process, layers and layers. And, sometimes I sit there going, universe, can I just have a week off? You said there is something else to deal with. You know what it's like? It's like, oh, okay, I'm dealing with that. And it's like, right, having, and I often talk about, having focused work and deliberate rest. But when we do these things that we're talking about, clearing the emotions, listening to the body's intelligence, the emotions, sharing with other women, health techniques, supporting each other, all this, it helps us to access more energy, so we can strive and support each other. And I love this thing. I read it recently about something about, it doesn't matter who fell down. Was it you or was it me? But the one who gets up first helps the other.
Right.
Yeah. So it's about that.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just reaching out the helping hand.
Yes.
And sometimes I think, especially as women, we are the nurturers, but sometimes it's like, ooh, well, what are they going to think? Well, you know what? Just do it anyway.
And you know what it is?
Yeah.
It's being listened to as well, isn't it? Because how many people have never truly been listened to? And I think that is such a powerful thing, because so many of my clients say that to me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just being quiet and just really hearing me. And, you know, that in itself is, huge.
You know, we're all caretakers, women. And then it's like, who takes care of the caretaker? You know, a lot of times, it's like, you know, I don't have children, but a lot of you know, I have elder care 24/7, and I'm building a business, and I'm moving countries. And I'm like, no one's taking care of me. And all of you who are in that sandwich generation of, you know, elder care and children and running your business. And sometimes you're just like, no one's taking care. Not only is no one listening to me, but no one's just taking care of me, even to like bring me a cup of tea. So it's that, because you're always the one to quickly run and jump and make the meal and do the cleaning and all of that. So I think giving ourselves permission now just to take a breath and ask for what we want and do the self-care. I think that's an important thing that women are actually taking the time to do and to recognize. And I just want to say that even through the computer screen, I'm getting so much energy in such a way.
Massive.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Normally at this time, I've been up like 12, 13 hours, and I'm feeling really energized. So much for the sharing, and it's so authentic, and it just makes my heart just warm. Because I'm always learning, I'm learning. I'm learning from all ages, and it's so beautiful to be here. So thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to go around the room. Everybody share just a final thought or comment or what you would want somebody listening to know. And that it's that essence of, because of like one of the things that I tend to share with people is that we've all been talking about it in a way, and some in the real words or not, but it's all the same thing. It's self-care is not selfish, because if we do not take care of ourselves, how can we possibly take care of someone else?
Yes.
And that, I think, is the essence of all that we're talking about today, is just realizing that being you is enough. So, Beth, how about for you?
I think for me, like overwhelming message is to say never too late. And if you have something calling you, do it. Doesn't matter if you're in corporate America or people are going to judge you or you're the family support or whatever it is. If you have a calling to do something else, no matter the age, no matter the time, find a way to do it. I see for myself and so many people in my world how much that has served them for their mental health and their physical health. I'd also like to mention that I have personally worked with, I mentioned Monica and Melissa, has made a world of difference in my business and my health. So just can't say enough about them. I just read Clarissa's book, Beyond Hormones, and it is fantastic. It's the culmination of all her years of podcasting. Go and buy it. Sam is new to my world, but I've seen her videos and I see the work she does. So I keep so excited to have her be part of WellTech. And everyone please go to welltechworldsummit.com, join the mailing list. If you are in London or can get to London on November 19th, please join us.
And thank you. And for me, you know, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's been an absolutely wonderful experience with some wonderful, wonderful souls. I think what I would say is just to remind everyone that there is so much unconditional love and there is so much gratitude. And it might not be in the physical, it might be energetic from your ancestors, from your guides. It's always there for you. So if you ever, you know, feel alone or unloved or anything like that, it you know, it's to tap into it is the most beautiful experience. And I help people to do that. I love helping people to do that. yeah, just remember you are loved. You are so, so loved. And please, yeah, if you want to reach out, then I'm contactable on Instagram, or or if you just want to chat, just to talk about anything. My website is melissastonard.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I want to share that I have days where it's hard for me to laugh, and people say, "Really? But you do positive psychology. You're a laughter yoga teacher. You do stress management." But anybody with a heartbeat has stress. I've got 2 teenage children. I have my son who's still in hospital every 2 weeks. He's been in hospital for 13 years. I've been to every single appointment. So I have difficulty sometimes laughing. So if you are struggling, talk to somebody. I have a friend that I can cry to. I have friends that I can talk to. Reach out to somebody that you can talk to. Let people know that you want to talk, you want to offload. Find reasons to smile. If it's difficult to smile, move. When we move, I do this little exercise where I say we're going to sway from left to right, right to left. Add a bit of a giggle. And it's okay if you're watching this and you're not laughing. Perhaps you're smiling, perhaps you're softening. It's okay. All feelings are valid. It's World Laughter Day on 5th of May. If you're around, I'm doing a couple of webinars and in-person laughter yoga in Sussex. Calm and laugh. Laughter is easier when you're laughing with other people. It's 30 times more likely that you're going to laugh. So let people know. Say, I want to laugh more. I want to smile more. Let people know. But yeah, reach out to me, samrihan.com. It'd be a pleasure to speak to you. And it's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming together. And I feel we've had such a beautiful, connected conversation, and I feel that very deeply in my heart. I would leave with a message that here sit 6 older, if we like, women. And the message is we are powerful. This is not over. Menopause is not the end. It's the beginning. And I think we've got all this great opportunity to step into our power and to grasp our opportunities and to make a difference in the world, as all of us are wanting and are doing. That this is the time that we can truly do that. And if you want to talk about menopause, get help with menopause, and you're thinking, please let this be over, then you can connect with me, clarissachristiansen.com, or you can go to my podcast. And that's, just tune in to Thriving Through Menopause and just listen to things from lots of lovely people who join me there and share their wisdom out in the world too. Thank you.
And I would say there is huge power in strong emotion. We have been conditioned to not feel the emotions that we were taught were inappropriate, like anger and rage. If you have a lot of that, you also have a big mission. They go hand in hand. There's a reason why you feel those emotions. The best thing you can do is find a place and support to dig into them and find the gift and the calling on the other side. This is your power. Step into it.
Ladies, this has been such an enjoyable, powerful conversation that I just believe that women around the world, number one, need to hear it, to take part in it. And I just encourage each and every one of you to reach out to one of these ladies, because chances are something that's within you is resonating with something from them. And that is, I truly believe, is the key to all of our collaborations and our connections and how we will exactly change the world. And it might be one person at a time. And I think it was Melissa that talked about the ripple effect. So if you know somebody that needs to hear one of these conversations, share this out to your friends. Or better yet, come and join us and start your own conversation. I personally love doing these LinkedIn Lives, because I think the more that we all get our messages out there, the better it's going to be for everyone involved around the world. And there are people right now that are struggling for lack of a vision, or lack of self, lack of healing, lack of not getting that. What's wrong with me that I'm feeling all these emotions? We have to realize for ourselves that there is nothing wrong with us. We are the products of our environment. We're the products of our upbringing. And you know what? That's okay. So everybody, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Leave your comments below. Would love to hear from you. And just know that, you are loved. And so I'm just so grateful for all of you coming on. Thanks again. And we'll talk to you next time. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.